Good morning, Rechavia Nachlaot in Yerushalayim. Boker Tov. Thank you so much for joining us. Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. Jerusalem time. And I look forward to seeing everyone hopefully today and in the future. Tomorrow morning also we're doing our Kabbalah Cafe right here. Same time, same place. And it's going to be amazing. We have a great shmooze for tomorrow morning as well. So we just started yesterday. We started Perek Bet, chapter 2 in Tanya, and you can see the Hebrew text on our Facebook page. We posted it yesterday, and so you can follow along, or in the Tanya, which hopefully you have at home, and if not, you can always get one over here in Yerushalayim. It's a great zechut to have a Tanya, the Holy Sefer Tanya Kadisha, in your home. A great segula. Okay, so yesterday we started talking about the neshama. The Alter Rebbe calls it the nefesh. The nefesh hashenit b'Yisrael, the second nefesh, the second soul. And this second soul is literally a part of God, literally a part of Hashem. That is very, very uplifting and very, very special. And we talked about the fact that Hashem himself blew into the neshama into Adam HaRishon's nostrils. And when someone blows, you inhale all the way deep down, and then you blow really, really hard out, and that means that the blow comes from deep within your lungs, and you blow straight out. And now we're going to quote again what the Zohar said. When we finished the class yesterday, we talked about it. U'kamosh katuv b'Zohar. It's got to be line number 2 or 3. Let's look inside the text. U'kamosh katuv b'Zohar, as it says in the Zohar, man denafach mitochei nafach. He who blows should blow from within. Pirush. That means to say, mitoch yuto umepnim yuto, from the innermost parts of the individual. So when we talk about a human being, true, when you blow out, in order to blow hard, you need to inhale very deeply. Unlike by speech, when you talk, Hashem gives us the power to talk, and you don't need to have too much of an effort in order to blow in, to withdraw, and then to blow out. But when it comes to blowing, you want to blow something away. You need more power. You need to make a greater effort in order to reach that deep part inside, deep down, mitoch yuto umipnim yuto, from the deepest parts of the person, in order to blow out and to have a stronger impact. The deeper the blow reaches, the harder the blow can, and the further the blow can reach. So too by Hashem, infinite levels greater, Ein Sof, the innermost part of Hashem, the etzem, the atzmut of Hashem, when Hashem wants to blow, and Hashem quote unquote blows from within, that reaches very, very deep, and that's able to have a strong impact. So our neshamas come from mitoch yuto umipnim yuto. Our neshama comes from deep down, as the Alter Rebbe says, deep down inside of us. And when it comes into us, we literally have a part of Hashem, not just godliness in its different levels, but in the essence, the most quintessential level of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that comes into us. It comes, v'ata nafachta bi. That is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu blows into us. That's a great zechut. That's unbelievable. And therefore we have this zechut in order, and we have to realize who we are. We have to realize what we are made up of. We are made up of the essence of Hashem. Let's continue in the text. Shetochiyut upnimiyut hachayut sheba adam, that the innermost part of life force of a person, motzi benfichato bekoach, you shoot out, you bring out from yourself with a great effort when you blow. Now we're going to bring out, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain another indication of where we find that our neshamas are from the depths of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are from the etzem, from the essence of Hashem. Let's continue. Kach al derech mashal, so too, metaphorically, neshamot Yisrael alu b'machshava. Neshamas Yisrael, the neshamas of Am Yisrael have come up in thought. What does that mean? Now I'm going to explain an interesting concept which was stated by the Maggid of Mizrich, who was the successor of the Baal Shem Tov and the Rebbe of the Alter Rebbe. And perhaps this is a point which the Alter Rebbe is alluding to. Thank you for your question. We're in Tanya, Perek Bet, chapter 2. In the regular Tanya, it's page Vav, which corresponds to page 10, which corresponds to number 10. On the right side of the page, you'll see number 10 in the regular Tanya. We're up to the 2 dots. 5 lines from the top of Perek Bet. Now the Maggid of Mizrich, the Holy Rebbe, the Maggid of Mizrich, he said as follows: just like a child which is born to parents, when a child is born, then the image of the child is in the mind, the machshava, in the mind of the parent. At every moment, at any given moment of the day, the image of the child is in the mind of the parent. The bond is not just an essential feeling, but it's also visual. It's also tangible. It's also very, very alive. Something which the parent. My child is part of me. I am a child of my parent. I'm a part of my parent. That needs to be the deep feeling, the deep understanding, and the deep bond between a parent to a child and a child to a parent. But it says specifically about a parent that the image of the child is always in the mind of the parent. Now, usually under regular circumstances, we are human beings, and before a child is born, it's virtually impossible for the image of the child to be in the mind of the parent, because you haven't seen the child yet. We are human beings. By HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now that we are here, now that Am Yisrael is alive, obviously we are always in the forefront of the mind of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the mind of Hashem. However, by Hashem, it's even more than by a regular scenario. By Hashem, even before we were created, our image is in Hashem's mind, has always been, just like Hashem was always here, is here, and will forever be here in the same moment. So too, when it comes to us being in Hashem's mind, our image, so to speak, our image is in Hashem's mind at every moment. It always was, it is, and will always be. We are so united with Hashem. As the Alter Rebbe is going to quote in a moment, a few verses where this becomes more visual, more understandable. And so this is the concept which is really said in the Zohar. Yisrael alu b'machshava. Am Yisrael has been, the literal translation from Hebrew is alu, have gone up. In other words, Allah b'machshava has been in Hashem's conscious understanding, conscious knowledge, conscious mind, so to speak. What does it mean? Am Yisrael, we were here way before anything else in the world. 5,780 years ago, Hashem created the world. Then we say that Torah, Alpaim Shana Kadma Torah Leolam. The Torah precedes the world 2,000 years. Now, in the literal sense, this doesn't make any sense. Because how can you say 2,000 years before the world was created? Before the world was created, there was no time. When Hashem created the world, just like He created space, makom, He also created zman, time. So the first moment of the creation of the world, that's when time began. So it doesn't make any sense to say 2,000 years before time. There was no time. The whole concept of years is made up of months and days, weeks and days, hours and minutes, seconds and nanoseconds. So you can't say that the Torah precedes the world 2,000 years. So what it means is not literal years. It means 2,000 levels. from the word alpayim, 2,000 years, 2,000, comes from the word aleph, alpayim, aleph, or in Aramaic, a'alefcha, I will teach you. Chachma and Bina are two major levels of intellect, obviously by Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is infinitely greater than ours. The Torah is 2,000 levels higher than the world. In other words, it's totally not limited by the limitations of the world. Torah is holy. Torah is essential. Torah is way higher than the world the way we know it to be. And so that's what it means. Torah is kadma la'olam. Kadma is before, Torah is before the world. Torah precedes the world. Now it says in the Medrash of Tanya Devei, I believe it's Tanya Devei Rab Nassan or Tanya Devei Eliyahu. It's a Medrash. The Medrash says, well, let me see. We know that Am Yisrael is also Aluba Machshava. This text that we're saying now has gone up in Hashem's Machshava even way before the world was created. So let's see. Is Torah first or is Am Yisrael first? Who's higher? Who precedes who? So the Medrash answers, look in the Torah, you'll find the answer. In the Torah it says, Tzav al Bnei Yisrael, Daber al Bnei Yisrael. Speak to the Jews. In other words, speak to Am Yisrael. In other words, the Torah, Hashem says in the Torah, you know those Am Yisrael that are here way before you? Speak to them. That's a proof that Am Yisrael is here even before the Torah. So what do we have over here? We have this beautiful concept of Yisrael aluba machshava. Am Yisrael has been in Hashem's thought forever. Forever. Am Yisrael was never created. Am Yisrael never began. Am Yisrael was always here. To the extent that our image is in Hashem's mind way before anything else, even before the Torah. Nothing else comes before us. And the Alter Rebbe is explaining this point in order to bring across the underlining message that our neshama comes from the essence of Hashem. And soon we're also going to have an example how it is physically by parents who have children. The way a child is created. So let's go back to the two dots on page Vav. I hope you all have it. And it goes as follows. Kach al derech mashal, so too, metaphorically, Neshamot Yisrael aluba machshava. The Neshamot, the souls of Am Yisrael, have gone up into machshava. In other words, have been in Hashem's machshava, in Hashem's holy thought forever. Kedichtiv, as it says in the verse, B'ni B'chori Yisrael. When Hashem is about to send Moshe Rabbeinu to redeem Am Yisrael from Mitzrayim, Hashem introduces who we are. Hashem needs to tell Moshe, who is it that he wants Moshe to redeem from Mitzrayim? And so he has this wonderful emotional statement and command to Moshe. And he tells him, B'ni B'chori Yisrael, my son, my oldest one, Yisrael, Am Yisrael. And then there's another verse. This one is from Parshat Re'eh, close to the end of the Torah. Parshat Re'eh, the fourth parsha in Chumash Devarim, which is Deuteronomy. And over here we say, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. You are children for Hashem your God. Obviously, the other religions take this to a whole other level. And because they have no way of explaining this, Hashem Yerachim, they try to explain. Thank you very much, Mendel, for your tea. Thank you very much. Now we could say L'chaim. We don't have to wait till tomorrow for Kabbalah Cafe. Now we could say L'chaim. Toda Rabba. Soon we'll say a bracha and start to drink. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Because the other religions have no way to explain it, so they have to say, God forbid, that Hashem has physical features. But we know the truth. We know that Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem, as we're going to see soon, the interpretation. But it's clear that HaKadosh Baruch Hu infinitely doesn't have to be physical, God forbid, in order for us to be His children. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem is all-inclusive. It's also spiritual, and also our physical beings are also make us children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. which is a fascinating subject, an unbelievable concept. Let's continue. Pirush, the explanation is, Kemo shehaben, the Alter Rebbe says, Kemo shehaben, just like a son, just like a child, Nimshach mimoach ha'av, is drawn down from the moach, from the mind of the father, or from the mind of the parent, just like literally, when there's the union of the father and the mother, and they bring down the great neshama, as we'll see later on in the chapter, for the child, and the child is created from this special union, spiritual and physical union between the parents. And literally, the semen comes from the mind of the parent, literally, physically, as a doctor once explained to me. This concept that it's not just a spiritual, Kabbalistic concept, but it's literal. Literally comes from the mind, from the flesh, from the mush, from the substance of the mind. Kach, so too, kiviyachol, so to speak, because Hashem is not physical, of course. Chas v'shalom. Nishmat kol ish Yisrael, the neshama of every single Jewish person, nimshecha, has been drawn down, mimachshavto v'chochmato yitbarach, from Hashem's blessed thought and wisdom. Unbelievable. This is truly an unbelievable concept. We see over here that our neshamas, we are like children. What makes us children of Hashem? That just like physically, materialistically speaking, that when we are connected to Hashem, we realize that our neshama, whether we know it or not, the fact is that our neshama is not only connected to Hashem, we have within ourselves a part of God. So when I met someone once and I tell him, come put on tefillin, he says, I don't want to put on tefillin, because I don't believe. I told him, you do believe. He says, I don't believe in Hashem. And I said, you do believe, back and forth. And he said, how do you have the chutzpah to tell me that I believe in Hashem? Who are you? You don't know me. You just met me off the street. And I tell him, I might not know your body, but I know your neshama, I know your soul. And this is a fact, that every single Jew has atzmut, the essence of Hashem within ourselves. Yes, you and you and you and I have within ourselves the atzmut, just like the highest, most exalted part of a person's body is the mind, the mochin. This is the highest part. The gulgolet, the skull, simply surrounds and protects the mind. But the most refined, the most, the highest, most part of a person's body, the most, the most delicate part of a person's body is the mind. And from the mind, that's the organism for the entire body. As it says in Chassidus, a healthy mind is a healthy body. And so therefore, the more we realize, the more we are conscious that our neshama is in our mind, the main part of the nefesh elokit is in our mind, then, Bezrat Hashem, we're able to bring the neshama throughout our entire bodies. Because that is the essence. Just like, physically speaking, a parent has a child, and the essence of the child comes from the mind of the parent. And when the child has a child, then also that, just like when a parent has a child, and the child comes from the essence, the semen literally comes from the mind of the child, and this is the one that creates, that semen creates first the mind, that's the first part of the child which is created, and then slowly but surely the rest of the body becomes formed. And when that child has another child, this is exactly what happens. The same thing that happens. It's the mind of that child which becomes the semen which develops the mind of the grandchild, so to speak, the next generation, and so on and so forth. So we realize that the neshama is in the highest, most delicate, most elated level of the person, and that gives us a possibility to be able to appreciate who we are. When we realize that we are literally, our neshamas come from Hashem's mind. That means it's the etzem, it's the essence. Oh, now we're talking about the essence, that's a whole other story. We're talking about the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. No one can compete with that. We're not, God forbid, going to shun down others, and to put on a banner, we are better than everybody else. That's not the point. We are the chosen nation. Nah, 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 nah. That's not what it's about. We are simply, it's important for us to know the truth. It's important for us, amongst us, to realize how holy, how special our neshama is. Whether we were born with this neshama, or if we converted and we according to halacha and we received the holy neshama, this is something which no one else has. It doesn't mean that anyone else is bad. It just means that everyone else is different. And when Hashem says that we are the chosen nation, that means that the chosen nation is not something which we have obviously different than others. Our bodies, al panav, on the surface, are the same exact thing as the same bodies as everyone else. But we have something so essential, so deep, that no one can compete with us. The moment that the nations of the world realize that this is the reality, they will respect us more. In fact, on a number of instances, excuse me please, Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of allergies over here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. L'chaim, l'chaim. Please join me and take your own coffee and tea. It's always good. Ala boker. On a number of instances, I had the opportunity to explain to Gentiles the following concept, which is very, 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 very delicate. And I explained to them when they told me that, how come that we say that Am Yisrael is the chosen nation? Doesn't that mean that we are being boastful over them? And I tell them, listen, your job is to observe the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, the 7 Noachite laws. Us, Am Yisrael, we have our 613 laws. It doesn't mean that anyone is better or worse. It just means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave every single person in the world, in the universe, in the globe, a job. We're all part of one big puzzle, and everyone has a job to fulfill the point of their point of the puzzle. And I explained to them that Judaism is different than the 2 other major religions in the world, at least, Christianity and Muslims. Christianity believes that everyone, the whole world, has to be Christians, and if not, they'll do pogroms, as they've killed millions of Jews, millions of people along the generations, because they didn't want to become Christians. And the Muslim religion, they will go on a jihad, God forbid, until the whole world becomes Muslim. Am Yisrael believes that if Hashem created you in a certain religion, then there's a purpose, there's a reason for it. The proof is that He created you in that religion. On the contrary, if someone comes to convert, the Torah opinion is to try to diverse them, to try to encourage them not to convert. Why? Because we believe that if Hashem made you in a certain situation, a certain family, in a certain religion, in a certain country, that means that that's your job, that's your mission to fulfill in this world. But Am Yisrael, whoever was fortunate to receive this neshama, you are part of the chosen nation. And therefore, if someone comes to convert and proves, puts their foot down that they do want to be part of Am Yisrael, then we accept them with open hands. Because that's the proof that Hashem Himself wants, that up until now you were in this family, in this religion, in this country, and now you're part of Am Yisrael. And so, when we realize what this neshama is, we realize that there's nothing that could compare to this. There's nothing that there's nothing that could compete with the greatest zechut, the greatest merit that we have, that we are part of Am Yisrael. So when we say the bracha in the morning, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani goy, that Hashem did not make me a Gentile, one of the other nations. Obviously, there are many interpretations to this bracha, but I'm just going to finish off with this note. Some people call it the the bright red apple bracha or the rotten apple bracha. What happens if you're walking by an apple tree and you see a nice, beautiful, bright, nice, fresh, ripe apple, but you can't get it because it's too high. So you say, it's probably rotten. You're convincing yourself psychologically that it's not good because you can't get it. So too, Shelo asani goy, Hashem didn't make me a goy. Really, I would love to be a goy, but because, sadly, or whatever some may say, I would just, not sadly, but whatever, Hashem put me in this family, so I just have to be Jewish by default. No, that's not the meaning of the bracha. Shelo asani goy is the greatest bracha in the world. Wow. Uvanu v'acharta mikolam v'lashon. How fortunate we are that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made us, created us Jewish, and gave us the zechut to have a neshama, to have this etzem, the atzmut, inside ourselves. Within ourselves we have atzmut, we have the essence of Hashem. As we quoted from the pasuk, B'ni b'chori Yisrael, banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Once we know this, the knowledge itself is meant to give us the koach, to give us the energy to be able to fulfill Hashem's will in the best possible way, to be happy. Ashreinu ma tov chalkeinu. We should be so happy of who we are, of the great zechut that we have. We're able to serve Hashem at every moment of the day, and Bezrat Hashem, we should be able to continue the day. Have a great day, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, 9:30 for Kabbalah Cafe. Please make a watch party tomorrow morning when you come on here on Facebook, so this way we can have many more people join us for the Kabbalah Cafe. Toda Rabah, and l'chaim everybody, l'chaim.